Some like it hot, and some sweat when the heat is on. Just like Gloria Estefan, hopefully that's actually her song. Some people have a love and affliction for the Ironman World Championships being in Kona, Hawaii, and some would rather it move around the world to give athletes a better opportunity to compete in not such extreme conditions. Hi, I am retired professional triathlete TJ Tollakson, CEO of Dimond Bikes, and today we are talking about the big news from Ironman about Kona being split from the men and the women. And let's just say this is what we know for sure.
These are the facts of the case, and they are undisputed.
On Wednesday, November 30th, Ironman announced that next year, only the women, pro women and age group women, will race in Kona. The men, they announced, will race at another date and another location to be announced in January. Well, I'm going to start the hot rumor here that next year, you probably already heard this, it's going to be in Nice in September. You may recall the history of Kona, and let's jump into a little bit of the history of Kona. So the Ironman World Championships started in 1978, and it combined three events that already existed, okay? It combined the Waikiki Rough Water Swim, which was 2.4 miles, the bicycle ride, I'm not sure what it was called Around Oahu Bike Race, which was 115 miles, rode all the way around the island of Oahu, and then the Honolulu Marathon. The actual Ironman shortened the bike race by 3 miles because they wanted the bike course to actually finish at the start of the marathon course. So from 1978, 1979, 1980, all of those races were done on Oahu. Oahu had some complaints, it was getting too crowded, they needed more people to do it. So in 1981, they moved the race to the Big Island and they kept the distances the exact same. 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike, full marathon, 26.2 miles. In 1982, they had the race in February as they did the previous races, and then they decided that they were going to move the race to October. So 1982 got 2 editions.
Wait, you can do that?
Yeah, dummy.
Well, in 1987, Dave Scott won the Ironman World Championships in a time of 8 hours, 34 minutes, and 13 seconds. Fast forward now to 2022, and Chelsea Sodero won the women's race faster than Dave Scott won the 1987 race. And I know it's not really fair to compare one year to another, especially in Hawaii where the conditions change, but you can just say the race, the athletes have improved tremendously, and it has turned in from this small family race to this multi-million dollar corporation. So with all this being said, this big news that it's split, what we most likely know is that this year, 2023, the men are probably going to race in September in Nice. That's not official, it's not been announced, but it's most likely right now. One thing that has happened is we saw this big thing called 50 Women to Kona, which is this big push by female athletes trying to get more female pros into the Ironman World Championships. And this was rejected time and time again by the CEO of Ironman, Andrew Messick, said, no, we're not going to do it. We're confined by space on the pier at the Big Island, and so we don't have enough room for more women. But I actually felt as a male professional, only having 30 women in the race was actually an unfair advantage compared to the 50 men in the race, just being that if they're only going to pay 10 deep, we don't need 50 men, we don't need 40 men who don't get paid when only 20 women don't get paid. I never really thought that was fair either. So I'm all for the equal prize money, but I thought they should cull the men's pro field down. And this is from a guy whose best finish in Kona is 20th, so obviously many years I'd be fighting for one of those starting spots and maybe never have it, right? But
if you ain't first, you're last. You know what I'm talking about?
So now we have an entire day dedicated to men racing in Kona and another day dedicated to the women racing in Kona. That happened in 2022. It was awesome. Now moving forward, wow, everything was just turned upside down. Our world is in a spin, and Ironman saying throughout this whole thing, how can we make more money? So now we're gonna have 2 world championship events, one for the women, one for the men, and supposedly it's going to alternate between who gets to go to Kona and who doesn't. Maybe it just alternates between who races in February and who races in October. I don't have all the logistics of that. Nobody knows that yet, okay? So What we do know is that now way more women are going to get the chance to race in Kona. So what do I see? The biggest benefits of moving to this new system. One, women will be in the spotlight. There are no men to deter from the women, okay? The age groupers, the professionals will have 100% of the cameras and focus of that day on them. It's awesome. You can't say they were overshadowed or they had to race on Thursday and the men got to race on Saturday. Nope, that's all done. Women are in the spotlight. I think that's a huge, huge plus. The second thing is that more women now get to experience racing not only Kona, but the Ironman World Championships. Now this is a big thing because historically this sport has been dominated by male participation.
That's not great.
And so getting more females in has always been a struggle. About to sneeze, sorry. All right, the next one is that the Kona prices. So I'll just tell you this about 2019 to 2022. That was the gap between Konas. I did my last race in Kona in 2019, so I was there for that year. I was back in 2022. I paid roughly twice as much money for the same trip to Kona in 2022 as I did in 2019. Now I know that's not all because of Ironman. I know there was some inflation in there, but I also know that there was a lot of price gouging happening and the demand was much bigger than supply for both housing and airfare in and out of the island. When we had the two-day event, the Thursday, Sunday, it really crowded the island. It overwhelmed the community and they're not able to sustain that and the prices were absolutely ridiculous because of that. The last big benefit is that moving the World Championships away from Kona gives athletes, who I'd put myself in this category, that don't perform relatively well or extremely well in hot, humid conditions, a fighting chance. So I know a lot of you said this, you know, Lionel Sanders is one of the fan favorites out there who does not race particularly well in the heat and humidity. He was second at St. George when it was a much more mild temperature. Now all of these things can change. It's all back on the table that we could do Nice, which is a highly technical bike course, which again also doesn't suit Lionel Sanders, but suits other athletes very well. But we have now the ability to rotate it so we could actually go from a race that we know was going to be really hot and humid in Kona to a race that we know could be really cold. And so maybe that's why Ironman Alaska was just canceled, because maybe now the Ironman World Championships are going to Alaska and we're going to make everybody freeze.
All right, everyone, chill.
Now we're going to look at the detriments. So what are the bad things about splitting this up? Okay, well, the number one bad thing on people's list is there's no Kona. So if you're a dude and you wanted to race in Kona next year, well, sorry, you can't. It's not going to happen. Not allowed.
You didn't say the magic word.
The next thing, the qualifying spots are now easier to get. Okay, some people will think this is a benefit. I think it's a detriment because I think that it's going to seem less prestigious. And because of that, people are going to try to only qualify in years that they can actually race in Kona, unless they're trying to specifically rotate and race another year. The next detriment are there are lots of couples who race Kona together year after year. They go to Kona as a vacation together and they both race. You can't do that anymore. And that, I think, is one of the things that's really special. I think we've all seen the photos of Tim and Rennie, Tim O'Donnell and Marinda Carfrey at the Ironman World Championships at the finish line, embracing each other. We've got Diamond riders, Amy Height and Dave Lundberg. They raced again this year in Kona. I think it's really cool when I see both of them out there together. And now we're sad to see that they won't.
Now what are we supposed to do?
Vendors are massively at a huge disadvantage now because now there are 2 world championships to go to. So let's talk about this in a brief history. So in 2014, we paid $3,600 for a 10x10 at the Ironman World Championships. This last year, we paid $4,635. Okay, so that's an increase over $1,000 for a 10x10 for a week. I can also tell you that prior to that, other races like Ironman Arizona, 2013, we paid $1,770 for a 10x10 at the Expo. This year, 2022, we paid $2,936 for that same space. That's almost double the amount. Now, I know inflation is crazy right now, but wow, that's some really crazy inflation from Ironman, and it's impacting vendors like me, but more importantly, it's impacting the numbers of vendors who even show up to the race. And so now that we're splitting up the World Championships, I've got to decide if I want to go to Nice, or if I want to go to Kona, or if I want to double the amount of money I'm spending and put it all out there.
Oh, I can't decide.
The last big detriment that I'm going to talk about is that the history of Kona is now forever disrupted. And now, I get this was already disrupted once before, 1982. We had 2 races. I understand that. 2021, we did the race in 2022 in May in St. George. So is that really a 2021 World Championship? I don't know. We were just doing it to have another World Championship. But the history's forever changed. Now we will have Kona times and we'll have non-Kona times. The world records will mean something in Kona. They will always mean something in Kona, but they're only going to be eligible to be broken every other year. And then if we move the other World Championship every other year, then that becomes a course world record for forever. We don't know. So the history will forever be changed, and there's a deep, rich history with Ironman that I can really appreciate. But I will say, personally, I think this is a good thing to rotate the World Championships. I think it's a good thing to give the women the spotlight. I'm very in favor of this. Let me know your thoughts on Ironman making this split. Drop it in the comments right here. If you want to see more about this, let me know. And thanks for tuning in. See you in Kona and maybe Nice. If you enjoyed this video, you want to see more of it, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I've got all kinds of great Ironman tips on training, nutrition, racing, amazing content. I would love for you to join me on this journey. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Check it out every week.